Right. Okay. So, do you want to do the open introduction for us, please, bruv?
Yes, indeed. Good afternoon. This is the first segment of our football referee podcast. I'm Trevor Gear, and he calls me bruv.
And I'm Emmy Hickens, and he calls me Cos. Welcome to the first segment of the football referee. Yeah, first segment. Yeah. So Manchester City lost 3-0
Yeah, they did.
to
Arsenal.
Arsenal, the Community Shield. What does that do to the um Ailing Haaland's abilities? What's happened?
Well, probably nothing. I don't think excuse me. I don't think the result of the Community Shield necessarily has an impact on anything. I mean, I
Mm,
always use an opportunity to push my own club, but we won it last year. Palace won it last year
yeah.
against Liverpool. We won it on penalties. And it was great for a team like Palace,
Mm,
like perhaps 15 of the 20 Premier League teams are not likely to win the actual Premier League. So we
mm,
look to win the trophies. And having already won the FA Cup season before last, we then won the Community Shield. So it was a significant thing. But actually, in the span of football,
mm,
it's the match beginning of the season between the league winners, the Premier League winners, and the FA Cup winners.
mm.
So it's got no great significance, but I don't think it matters. Now, clearly, it wasn't a one-all draw, which one might have expected between the two top teams. And Arsenal did seem significantly better on the
Mm.
day than Manchester City. And I believe afterwards, Enzo Maresco, their City manager after Pep, was saying they need to buy some players, otherwise he'll be in trouble. Well, that's obviously his way of putting that to the owners, but
Mm.
I think it's a bit desperate to be saying that after one game. Now we've had the World Cup. A lot of players from many Premier League teams have had players away. So I think the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, we're probably going to see some strange results because so many of the players have come back to the teams without really having had a pre-season. I know in the case of Palace, I think we had amongst the most players at the World Cup in the Premier League, and it was 11 or 12. So
Mm.
most of those, all of those, have not been back for very long. They were given like 4 weeks off after the World Cup, and so that brings you right towards the new season. And obviously, City are in the same boat. I mean, for example, Mark Gay, who went from Palace to City last season, he was at the World Cup. Haaland was, and no doubt most of the others. So I don't really think that result means anything. Now, having said all that, we know it's going to be quite interesting to look at Manchester City in these first few weeks,
Mm.
given that they've lost their talisman, they've lost their incredible manager. And we don't, we're not here to push other people's products, but I would just say, coming on to Amazon Prime tonight, for anyone who's got that, there's a
Yeah.
four-part series documentary about Pep Guardiola.
All right.
And it's quite interesting. Some of the clips you see about him being angry with the team and they didn't play as well as they perhaps might do. So
Mm.
that's a good one to watch. But they've lost him, of course. He's gone, and yeah, that's it must be a bit strange for the players. I mean, some people rate the new manager. He used to be Pep's assistant, didn't he, 2 or 3 seasons ago
Yeah.
at Manchester City? But that in itself doesn't make him equal to Pep. I mean, he may look like they may look like twin brothers. They sort of do,
Mm.
really. And but there won't ever really be another Pep Guardiola, I wouldn't think, not for some time. So it's difficult for the players. Maybe like Elliot Anderson, who's gone there.
Mm.
No, I suppose he knew Pep Guardiola had gone, but others like Mark Gay, who went back in January, they went there on the strength of this great manager wanting them, and now it's going to be a bit of a strange initial season for Manchester City to see how they do cope. It wouldn't surprise me if one or two of their players actually decide they'd like to go. I mean, they've lost Rodri, for example. He's already gone to Barcelona. Now, he may well have done anyway after, I think he was the player of the World Cup, wasn't he? He was given that accolade. So
Yeah.
he's gone, and that's going to make a difference in their midfield, although, of course, they've got good replacements. But personally, my gut feeling is they won't do as well this season. It's going to take them a bit of getting used to the new manager, the new coaches, etc., etc. So we may just find things are not as rosy at Man City as they could be. Now, whether that played into or factored into the Community Shield game, who knows? Because 3-0 is just on the edge of a drubbing, really, isn't it? If it was 4-0, you'd say, well, that's a drubbing. And arguably 3-0 is as well. We'd have to say Arsenal, they played very well. They looked pretty much on it and at it, as they say. So they're going to be a team to conjure with. Um, Interestingly, I was reading last night, I think, someone commented, I
Mm.
think it was, I can't remember which club this person supported. It certainly wasn't Arsenal, or whether it was a journalist, I can't remember. But along the lines that although Arteta is clearly a good manager, this
Mm.
person said they're not as good as you might think. Certainly as not as good as Guardiola and possibly Klopp as well, because Arsenal had some favourable issues last season. Now, I don't really share this view, although I do share the view that Arsenal did not concede, I believe, a single penalty last season.
Mm.
They didn't have one person sent off. And you can start to think, well, it's a bit like Argentina in the World Cup, isn't it? Was there kind of a subconscious bias towards Arsenal, which I doubt very, if it was subconscious, I'm sure. But it is
Yeah.
strange. They didn't have a single player sent off, nor did they concede a penalty. And I'm sure that's right. That's correct to say that. So maybe the gods were on their side last season. No one can argue they were the best team overall of last season. They've strengthened their team. They've got Gimmerai from Newcastle,
Yeah.
and others as well. They're going to be an even hotter team now, I suspect. So it will be very easy for anyone to say, "Yeah, I'm going to bet, I'm going to put money on Arsenal winning it again," which is not automatic, but it could well be the case because they really do. They are set up, I think, to be the team to beat. So that's going to be interesting. I don't think I'd panic if I were a City fan, a Man City fan at the moment. I want to see how the first few games pan out. Interestingly, I don't know who their first game is on the weekend coming,
Mm.
but their Palace's first home game is home on Friday night. It'll be Friday night football, not this week, next week, against Manchester City. So that's going to be an interesting one for us fans at Palace next week, especially you go down to Palace now because doing this new stand. They just started a couple of months ago, and the whole place outside of the behind the stand has completely changed. Things knocked down and all, so it's going to be quite a fascinating couple of years for this new stand being built. But to say, be
Mm.
that as it may, Friday week, Friday night football on Sky, I believe, Palace against Manchester City. So they're going to be tough to beat. They are going to be tough to beat, I'm sure. So yeah, I don't think it's too early for City fans to panic. I think they'll be okay, but they may take some adjustment with the new manager.
You think so? I think City fans should be panicking, but um, I don't know. Do you think Rodri's departure might have been one of the reasons why they aren't they're struggling at the moment, do you think?
Well, I remember some statistics. Now, I don't think it was last season, but the one before, he missed the whole season, didn't he, because of a serious
Yeah,
injury.
yeah, I did.
And I can't remember where they finished. I don't think they won it that year. I don't think they did.
Hmm.
Um, but I can't remember that. But they always used to show statistics when he was injured and subsequent to that. When
Mm.
he played, when he played, they usually won the match. They won most of their games anyway. When he
Yeah.
didn't play was when they didn't always win. They might have drawn, lost the odd game here and there. So his impact on the team was, by all accounts, enormous. It really was. But of course, so he wasn't there on Sunday. But then again, nor was somebody like Bernardo Silva, because he's gone. And he
Mm,
was a little engine room all on his own. I mean, he's a short fellow, but he sort of popped up everywhere. I don't think I've ever known a player, I can't remember a player who was so, well, he was a utility player, but he just popped up everywhere. He must have had a wonderful engine, the stamina, his fitness, because he saved defensive situations time and again, and then he'd
yeah.
pop up and score a goal. And I think Guardiola said last season that he was his go-to player, the first guy on the team sheet every week. He was fantastic. And of course, he's gone. Now, they probably felt the impact of his disappearance, his not
Mm,
being there, more than Rodri, because Rodri is a great player to have in your midfield, a colossus of a player. He just had that something about him. He could pick out a good pass. He always tried to play forward. That's what I liked about Rodri. Nothing too spectacular, but he went forward. Everything seemed to revolve around him, the centre of the midfield. So yeah, he's a great loss to them. But also, as I say, is Silva. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get on. But yeah,
mm.
whether others, I mean, there were rumours in the close season about Real Madrid wanting Haaland. Now, if they were not to do well in their first couple of games and the window's still open, you could imagine Haaland perhaps thinking, well, actually, I want to get away to Real Madrid. But, I'm not really suggesting that's the case. I don't know at all. But the fact that the window stays open until the 1st of September, the transfer
Mm.
window, I bet we will see one or two surprises before then.
I hope. I hope he
Yeah,
gets back to form, Haaland, because I think he's a great player, you know. He's and I think he's a bit of a quiet footballer. You don't see him being involved in too much of the controversies that
no,
you hear of the
no.
others. I think he's just level-headed, Haaland. Now, the next one would be Marcus Rashford at Manchester United. I know we've talked about it the last time we talked about him, not finding a club and then reverting back to Manchester United. Um, do we think he's going to see that much games? I know I've asked this question before, but it just keep lingering on my mind. Would he get to feature in the squad? Would he make the first 11, do you think?
Yeah, it's going
Rashford?
to be interesting to see. I find it hard to believe that with him coming back, and he didn't really play too much in the World Cup, so we can't gauge his level at the moment. But
No.
having said that, he's played for England a couple of times in more recent times, and he's done okay. He's still got a bit of pace down the wing.
Mm,
Naturally he's a good footballer. I think he's been um, diverted by other things over the last few years, but I think by and large he didn't do badly at Barcelona. The fact that he
mm,
went there in the first place says a lot about Barcelona rating him. So yeah, I think he will feature. He'll be given his chances, probably in starting 11. I'm trying to think who it was. I saw something the other day whereby a former player, I can't think who it was, of Manchester United was saying in this article to Rashford, this is how you want to be prepared. This is what you want to be doing. And I think part of it was, don't get involved in stuff you shouldn't. And I don't believe he would now. I think he must have learned lessons from what's happened in the past.
mm,
So I think he'll be. I think he'll be on the money with this. I think he'll be a good trainer. He'll train well because he'll make it clear he wants to feature in that team. He's come back. I expect the fans will forgive him if they have anything negative from the past,
Mm,
because I think Manchester United probably will have a good season. I think they're a more settled club now. Now that Carrick knows he's the manager for the next 2, 3 years at least, whatever.
mm,
I think they'll have a good season this year. Carrick won't be trying to prove himself every week, which obviously can affect how he picks the team, how he coaches the team, and so on. So now he's got the confidence of the job that is his. And
mm,
yeah, they've got Bruno Fernandes still, which is a key thing. Um, and the other players they brought in more recent times,
mm,
what's his name, Mbumo, he's still there, isn't he?
mm.
And many others that they've got excellent players. So I would expect to see them. I would say with a top four, top five finish at least. I think they'll
Yeah,
do very well this season.
yeah,
And Rashford, I suspect, will be part of that. I think if there was any sign of him missing training, being late for training, not pulling his weight, I think he'd be benched. And I think possibly he knows that he's got to toe the line this time
yeah,
because when he does, he's a very good footballer.
yeah. There's no doubt of his abilities as a footballer. It's just the controversies that follow him around,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Now, we have the most valuable over 30 players in the world, right? Va Most valuable over 30 players in the world. Can you guess who's number one?
Aged over 30.
Hmm.
What in the Premier League? Do you mean, or just in
Oh,
anywhere?
sorry, in Europe.
Well, I mean, you're going to say Harry Kane, I expect, aren't you?
It
How
is.
did I know that? But it's true, isn't it? He's
It is.
phenomenal.
Absolutely.
He's
Absolutely.
phenomenal.
Yeah, it is now Harry Kane at 33 is worth 60 million.
Yeah,
Um, Now this one's a surprise one actually. Rodri is number two and is what 30 at 30 is what 55 million. And then followed by Joshua Kimmich. I think he plays for Bayern Munich as well. 31 is worth 35 million. Bruno Fernandes is worth 35 million as well. Let's see. I think that's all about
how old
the
is Bruno? Is he 30? How old is Bruno?
yeah, Bruno Fernandes at 31 actually.
31.
So he's 31. So he's number four and he's worth 35 million actually. Level with number three, Joshua Kimmich. Now, what about the most valuable under 21 players in the world?
Well, it's going to be your mate Lamal, isn't it? He's got
Yeah,
to be top.
yeah, he's
Yeah,
top actually. So Lamine Yamal at 220 million value.
yeah.
Wow.
I'm
It's
not
a good
surprised.
for a 19-year-old, that's good. For the
Yeah,
220 million. Yeah. Followed by Joe Neves of PSG.
yeah.
Um, at 21, and then Desire Doy at PSG as well. And then let me see if we can have. There's none in the Premier League. That's a shame, really. There's no one here. Oh, there is. Estavo. Estavo is 19 and he's worth 80 million. Oh, that's good. That's
Who does he play for?
Chelsea. Uh,
Chelsea.
yeah, he's Brazilian. You know him, Estavo with a big afro
Oh,
hair.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's him. He's worth
yeah.
19. He's worth 19 million as well. Now the next one that I was gonna go to is uh what's his name? The former Man City Pep Guardiola. Now this could be taken out of context, but let's see. It says I don't want good players. And then he says, I want players with passion. Mm. Uh, what's the difference between a good player and a player with passion? Is there a difference?
Well, interestingly, that when he said that, I don't know where you read that, but that was the clip I read of this 4-part series that
Right.
starts tonight on Amazon Prime, where
Right.
the players, I don't know what the result of the game was. They obviously knew it was being filmed. Like, in fact, I think nowadays a lot of or some of the dressing room half times or at the end of the games are filmed for
Mm.
future use. But it was in this, and he had a real rant at the players
Yeah.
apparently. And he was saying, he said, and I don't know when this was. I think it was sometime last season. It was last season, I believe,
Mm.
early this year. And he was saying, I want players with passion. He said, now look, and apparently he was very angry because of how they played.
Mm.
He said, I just divorced my wife, the most beautiful, his words were, the most beautiful woman in your world.
Mm.
A lot of comments after said, well, what does he mean by your world to the player? Anyway, the most beautiful woman, I've divorced her. He said, I
Mm.
still love her. She still loves me, but we ran out of passion. We lost the
Mm.
passion.
Mm.
Now, I mean, it looks like when he does eventually retire from football management, I don't think he has yet.
Mm.
That I think that a lot of people in the know say when he's back in Barcelona, where they live,
Mm.
then they may well rekindle their marriage. They've got 3 children. I think they're 3 daughters.
Mm.
Anyway, but he said, I've divorced her. And he was obviously uptight about that because I think it was public news. They did divorce because his wife and kids came over.
Mm.
When he came here, I think in 2016 to Man City, they lived here in Manchester until 2019 when they went back to Spain. Now, whether that was the beginning of some cracks, I don't know. Of course, it was just pre COVID. And I seem to
Mm.
remember early in COVID, his mother died. I don't think that's in this program, perhaps it is, but yeah, so it was all happening around that time for him. Now, apparently, his wife was very disillusioned when she thought he was going to retire in 2024, but he then signed another contract, I think for 2 years, because when he left, there was still a year to go on that.
Mm.
And she was apparently disillusioned. Now, whether that triggered the lack of passion or whether it was already there and it just triggered the divorce, who knows? But the point is, he chose to bring this in, his personal life, into this angry tirade against the players. And
Mm.
he went on to say, I don't want good players. I don't just want good players. I want good players with passion. Now, I think your question was, what do you think he means by that? But I totally agree. I absolutely agree. I think
Mm.
in any walk of life, I think somebody once said, whatever you are, be a good one. And that's probably quite good advice to kids leaving school or whatever, college and things. Whatever you are, be a good one. Be the best you can be. And that that passion, it comes from within. Now, I think people can learn to feel passion.
Mm.
If to personalize it, I think I've always been somebody in things I do or try to do. I try to do it. Well, I don't try. I instinctively want to do it to the best of my ability, and I would call that passion because sometimes you go for yourself. You go above and beyond. You might work, as occasionally I've done on music. I'm writing a song which I really want. I've worked till like 4 in the morning when I've had to be
Mm.
up by 7 that day. I'm not saying
Mm.
that's regular, but that's happened a few times because, and this is not self-praise. I'm just saying how I define passion in myself. Sometimes it's almost over the top, but it's a passion, and I think without passion in life, we perhaps don't achieve as much as we might do.
Mm.
But also we don't savor the success, the consequences of that passion. So I know exactly what he means. Pep didn't want players turning up just very good footballers, they would be by definition playing for Man City, turning up, doing their training, going off home. He wanted to see passion, and we sometimes read, don't we, about players who come along and they want to
Mm.
stay on the training pitch when all the others have gone in for their lunch or whatever. They want to stay there. I always remember reading that about in a book about George Best. He loved staying on the pitch. Another one was David Beckham. he always loved going beyond with his training because he always did it with his dad before he was with Manchester United as a youngster. Every
Mm,
evening after school, every weekend, they'd be in the park with a goal and he would take his free kicks, which of course showed itself in his professional career. That's
mm.
passion. Whatever you do, whatever it is, do it with passion. And I think it can be twice as good as it would be without that passion. So I can understand totally what Pep meant by that, and I should be interested to watch it in this four-part program to just to see how he put that across. But I would think it is along the lines that I've said.
Yeah, it is actually. I think in the same thing, the clip that I picked up from it was talking about his wife as well, his relationship and why
Yeah,
it
yeah.
ended. So yeah, it is. Yeah, is that on tonight? Did you say?
Tonight it starts tonight on Amazon Prime.
Oh, right. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
when I say it starts, I imagine all four parts are on there. It's like Netflix, isn't it? Um, they tend to sort of put it all out. Very rarely do they say, "Oh, one part tonight, next one next week." I don't think they do that anymore.
Yeah,
So yeah, they should all be there. So again,
yeah,
it may be a binge watch. If it's good on the first one, it
yeah.
might be an early morning tomorrow morning for me if I want to stay up and watch it.
Yeah, absolutely. I like Pep. I like Pep Guardiola. I don't like the fact that he is Man City. Well, he was Man City's coach, because
Mm.
that was a threat to Manchester United. That's
Well,
the only reason.
there's nine new managers this year in the Premier League, nine, which is
Yeah,
almost half, obviously. So that's going to be again that will add to the World Cup effects of having not much pre-season for many of the clubs.
yeah,
There'll be some odd results. I think
there
there
will
really will
be.
be some odd
Yeah, there will
results.
be. Well, we've seen one already with Man City and Arsenal, haven't we?
But that was a bit strange. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, yeah, 3-0.
yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. Now, this one is from Real Madrid coach. So from one coach to another coach. Um, Describe yourself as a coach in one word, he was asked. And then he said, this is Jose Mourinho. He said, an elite coach. Um, I mean, I love Mourinho. I think he's a great manager. Um, but I would say, I think he was a great manager. I wouldn't say it in the present tense because obviously he's falling from grace a bit in the Premier League, going by the Premier League, result or analysis. If you're looking at his records from the Premier League angle, but there is something called the rise and fall. So, and rise again. So maybe he's rising again. How would you describe Jose Mourinho?
Yeah, well, he always called himself the special one, didn't he? And asked to describe himself as a coach, the elite coach. He's got a very good, very powerful self-image. Now, the fact you say he's past his prime, and there's possibly statistics to back that up. I don't know. I think he does still tend to win trophies. He won one trophy at least when he became Manchester United's manager. But the interesting thing about him is that clubs who sacked him previously or who he's left invite him back. Now he's back at Real Madrid. He was a manager with them before. So I don't believe any club, especially of that kind of quality of Real Madrid or others, Chelsea even,
Mm,
would invite somebody back who, although they may have sacked them, uh, they don't really rate. I seem to recall when Chelsea sacked him some years ago, there had been a bit of a debacle when one of his doctors, a lady coach stroke doctor, ran onto the pitch
mm,
to look after an injured Chelsea player, and he was injured. And he was furious, was Mourinho, because he didn't give her permission to run on the pitch. And that became a long drawn out, as I remember, situation. And she eventually left. And I remember thinking, because I've always been a Jose Mourinho fan. I have. I think he's good for football. He is passionate. He's got a great personality, and people like that draw people to them. So I
mm.
always liked him. But that was one episode. I thought, no, I don't care for how he treated that lady. I mean, probably we don't know the ins and outs, but what she did running on to help this player, she didn't do it to defy anybody, let alone the manager. And somehow he perhaps humiliated her publicly. So whether that's why Chelsea got rid of him, but of course he did go. I'm right in saying I think he did go back there at some stage, as well as other clubs as well, and Real Madrid included. Sometimes he probably overstates himself,
Mm,
but then in the world of football, as in many other spheres, is it always the best approach to be totally self-effacing?
mm,
Self-critical. Oh well, I'm not bad at something. I think if you really want to get on in this world, you've got to
mm,
believe in yourself. I mean, a slight tangent here, but it's on the same subject. When I was on holiday recently, went to Spain, Barcelona. I spent a lot of time in, and I had a book I wanted to read on this holiday, and it was by a guy called Russ. His name Russ, and he's. I'm trying to think. He's American,
mm,
and he's a rap artist. You may know. I can't remember his second name, but it's Russ. But this book, he's written a book, and I thought it was brilliant. I read it on my holiday
mm,
because basically, when he was trying to break into the music industry, really after school, after he left school, he said it's so hard, as we know, it's very hard to get into it. But he would wake up, he'd be writing his rap songs and experimenting, and he had mates who come and help. And he clearly was pretty good at what he was doing, but he would spend every waking moment. And he said, every day I woke up and thought, is today going to be the day? Because they need me out there. And my stuff is that good.
mm,
And okay, I think within that you still have to have a sense of realism about what your product is, and if it's in line with what somebody may want. But
mm,
the fact is, too many people, too many of us really, sometimes are too self-effacing. We need to believe in ourselves and say, yeah, what I do with that, I'm pretty good at that. And, you know, other people need to know that, etc., etc. So I loved the message in that book of that. And eventually he made it big. He's quite a big artist nowadays,
mm,
and very talented on his rap music.
mm.
But yeah, and I say the same about Jose. And you could say the same about Pep Guardiola. He was no shrinking violet, was he? He didn't
No.
say, oh, I'm not very good at this. He expected the best, the passion from his players, because he's passionate himself. When you are passionate, I think you demand it from those you're dealing with, people, especially if they work for you or you're their manager, or whatever. Even a captain of a side, another footballer, they get passionate with one of their players who makes a mistake. You got to get passionate about things, and so with Mourinho, like that is him. What you see is what you get. He's a passionate man. He's very self-promoting, sometimes to the point of arrogance, perhaps. But actually, people like that, they do tend to attract people, which in turn starts to make them successful. If I heard in a few weeks' time Mourinho was coming to be manager of Palace, and I say that with all respect to our new French guy, Pierre
Mm,
Sarge, good luck to him. But if at some future situation Jose was coming, I think most fans, well, yeah, we got one of the best, and I still think people believe that. He's got a way with injecting passion. He expects it back, and that's probably why he can create good teams. He can
mm.
sometimes divide, and that perhaps is where he hasn't always won the trophies he might have done. But he has got a CV of many trophy wins, and that's the bottom line for many clubs, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I respect his confidence or his exuberance of confidence, because it does go a long way to inspiring even the players. The players think, well, if
Yeah,
the manager thinks we're good enough to win this trophy, we
absolutely.
might as well do our best. Yeah. Now, Paul Pogba, I don't know if you remember him.
I remember him. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It says AS Monaco and Paul Pogba have parted ways by mutual agreement. Now I don't know what happened there, but I believe it was banned for a few years, wasn't it, from playing football. Were it him or the other one? Were it him that were banned?
I know when you say the other one, I know who you mean. It was an ex-Man City
Bale,
player, wasn't it? Hmm?
Balotelli,
Yeah,
Balotelli,
yeah.
yeah.
They were
I
both
think
kind of similar, but
they were,
yeah, I
were.
think he was banned for a few years. I seem to think it was him, the Man
Yeah.
City player, who had fireworks in his bathroom in his mansion in Manchester and blew up the bathroom or something weird like that.
Uh,
So yeah, people get up to some strange things, don't they? But Paul Pogba, I just remember him as a good footballer for Manchester United. He
mm,
was clearly talented, but again, as sometimes happens with very good, almost very individual footballers, they
mm,
have a character, they have a personality that doesn't always help them. I mean, I suppose the classic version of that would be George Best, who, he was a wonderful footballer by all accounts, and yet I believe, so I've read a couple of books about him. I believe he retired when he was 27
mm.
because he had other things that interested him more, namely women. I think it was poor old George, but he was a phenomenal footballer, and he never graced a World Cup because I guess Northern Ireland never were able to get to the finals of the World Cup. But yeah, some footballers are their own worst enemies, and I'm sure we could look and see others whose careers have gone south because they haven't really put in the work, put in the training, or whatever. And it's a shame
Yeah,
because they're self-sabotaging when it's like that. But that's a personality thing. There but for fortune go any of us. We can all self-sabotage ourselves on occasions.
absolutely.
But yeah, Pogba, I don't know what's happening with him now. Are you going to tell me that he's coming back to the Premier League or not?
Well, he's not coming back to the Premier League, unfortunately, but I would love for him to come back to the Premier League because it was like Pogba is what Vinicius Juniors reminds me of now. It's that kind of energy, that sort of controversial. I'm not saying he was that controversial as Vinicius Jr., but he certainly had that streak in him where, it's always drawing attention. And the thing with football is once you start it, you get
Mm,
associated by it. It just follows you everywhere. And it's hard to shake off. Just like what Vinicius Juniors has done now. When you say Vinicius Juniors, you think, oh, he's gonna do something. He's bound to,
mm,
either, have an angry outburst or say something. So I think Paul Pogba was his own enemy, was his own worst
yeah,
enemy
yeah,
in his I think the talent protected him a little bit, but there's so much talent can do for you. Talent can
yeah,
only take you so far. You have to do the rest of the work yourself. And, unfortunately or fortunately for him, it didn't. But let's hope he finds a club. Milan has to find a club for himself. I think he's a free agent now. That's what that means. Anyway, so on that note, we'll conclude the first. We'll bring the first segment of the football referee to a conclusion, and then we'll usher in the second segment of the football referee. So we all hope you join us on the second segment of the football referee. I've been Emmy Hickins, and he calls me cuz.
and
Let's
I'm
go.
Trevor Gear, and he calls me bruv.
When I remember what you call me, it just makes me happy. I think I still got it.
I'll change it next week.
Right. Okay. So let me just and these.